Hey guys, how's it going? It is Dave, the drummer, All Japan Worldwide Fan Group. Brett, huge part of the FMW English-speaking community, if you will, has been so kind as to hang out with us and talk a little bit about the connections, the roads shared between All Japan and FMW, which there is quite a bit. We'll get to that interview. Hey guys, how's it going? This is Dave, host of Uncle June's Junction. And with me today is somebody who I've actually known for a couple of years now. As far as you can know somebody on the internet, but I'm on the Skype line with Brett from BAHU FMW World. Brett and I know each other through the Strong Style Symphony forums from a long time ago, which was a huge resource and network for Pudesu fans that enjoyed, anything from Joshi to Deathmatch to Luchadesu. And that's how I got acquainted, getting to talk to Brett. I had been a fan of his work with his website detailing of the promotion of FMW. If you're a big fan of FMW, it's a really good read because I still find myself going back. So Brett has been doing this for some time. FMW and All Japan, they have some background together, and I thought, because we're All Japan Pro Wrestling Worldwide Fan Group, there's a lot of folks out there that are not familiar with Atsushi Onita. They're not familiar with Tarzan Goto. They're not familiar with the relationship that some of these wrestlers have with Giant Baba himself. And so I thought, who else better to bring on and to talk about it a bit and talk about the little connections back and forth between FMW and All Japan than Brett. I want to start off with talking about Atsushi Onita, so the founder of FMW. Let's start talking about him.
So Atsushi Onita started up in All Japan. He was actually the very first dojo student in 1973. All Japan started up in 72. Onita, at the time, he was about 15, 16 years old. He was his father had passed away, and so the only way for him and his mother to make money was for him to get a job, and that was to drop out of high school and join the All Japan dojo and start up and begin training to be a wrestler so that he could make money. And so that's what he did. He started up in 73. He made his debut in April 1974 along with Masafuchi, who I believe is still there.
Yes.
They were the first two dojo students, and Giant Baba, because of Onita having had his father pass away so early, Giant Baba became kind of a father figure to him.
Right. Okay. Baba kind of being known for having that sort of paternal role with a lot of rookies. I suppose the last one to really come to mind is Marufuji, right? But that kind of shows you the kind of figure that Baba was in the pro wrestling community, as in he was a very fatherly figure to his pupils. Essentially, they looked up to him with a sort of like awe, because it's Giant Baba. But anyways, so Onita winds up getting selected to go to the excursion to America, and why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so back then, I mean, even still to this day, I know Shinsuke Nakamura did it. A lot of wrestlers, especially in the 90s, did it, where, hey, we need you to learn a different style of wrestling. They kind of felt like Onita is going to be, something, but he can't just be just this All Japan wrestler. And same thing for Masafuji. He needs to learn other styles in other countries and everything. So they sent him and Fuji to pretty much everywhere throughout. They went to Puerto Rico. They traveled throughout the United States. They worked Amarillo. They worked Memphis. Mid-Atlantic. So they were throughout, and for several years, they were touring in different territories, different states, different countries, like I said, and just learning all these different styles as a result, coming away from being there on the card.
Right, and we could kind of safely say that that the pair of them worked essentially the territories inside of the U.S. essentially. I mean, we're talking Puerto Rico, right? We're talking Amarillo. We're talking all the different. They essentially ran the gamut of territories that they could for let's say like the bottom part of let's say Southern America, the southern part of the U.S. right, go to like the Caribbean, right, and where the big money territories are. So that's really interesting because I'm not 100% sure on how many All Japan trainees got that ability to go and essentially work that entire circuit of the essentially what is the NWA, right? I mean, you've got all those big
NWA in Memphis, and
Okay, so by the end of the time, Fuchi and Onita are they're being pulled back towards All Japan to come to do their thing, and Onita is he's pushed into the spotlight. He is the face of the junior division that is trying to go head to head up against New Japan's junior division, which is just going over like gangbusters, especially guys like Kuniaki Kobayashi. And you also have Tiger Mask, right, and the Dynamite Kid, and you have Davey Boy Smith, who was wrestling as a junior at that point, and you have your lucha guys like Fishman's working over there, and so
Bret Hart also,
yeah, exactly, and so Onita, he's trying as he might to work these great feuds, and some of them are with the Guerreros, if I'm not mistaken. Is it Chavo that he is working the program with for the I think it's the International Junior Heavyweight title?
Yeah, that was his big program, but he worked against Hector also.
Right, exactly, yeah. And so I think it's very interesting that Onita, we so many people just think of Onita as like the hardcore wrestling fanatic. I mean, the extreme guy, Mr. Deathmatch. He's been trying to get a deathmatch in the U.S. for years, and he is essentially almost just put into this spotlight on a contemporary level with guys like I said, Kobayashi and Tiger Mask, and it's incredible to think that at a point in time they're on a level like the people view them and say, okay, they're like the top guys of their junior divisions of their promotion, right? But not too much longer after that is when Onita starts breaking down, because this style of wrestling is kind of really just taking a toll on his body, which nobody could expect. And supposedly, from what I understand, he only had a couple more matches when he came back from his knee injuries, which I think was 83. And 84, he tries to come back, and he's just not in the shape that he was in before. He's not able to, do the things that he was able to do before. And I'm not 100% certain because I can't remember the source. But if I remember correctly, there was some people that were saying that essentially Baba and a few of the other All Japan personnel were sort of pushing Onita out. Not so much Onita kind of leaving of his own volition, but Onita kind of being put in a spot where it's sort of like, well, what's it going to be? Are you going to jump off the ship, or, are we going to have to push you off? And I was wondering if that's something you had heard about, or if that's something that you're familiar with at all, or had heard any kind of gleaming about, or what have you heard about Onita and All Japan kind of parting ways?
Yeah, so like you said, Onita, the big thing that happened, he was deteriorating due to his style, but the big thing that happened is he slipped after leaving the ring against a match with Hector Guerrero. Some believe that the water had been spilt on the mat, and as a result, he ended up slipping on it. And that ended up really screwing up his knee, and then that's what caused him to be out of action for about 20 months or so, almost 2 years. And so, yeah, he came back in December 84, and he worked about 2 matches or so, and Baba was like, nope, he's done. Like, this is not my junior heavyweight ace that I was having to try and go up against Tiger Mask with. Now, granted, Onita was never better than Tiger Mask anyway, but like now it's such a far different world and between the two. And so Onita was nowhere near where he was even the year or two prior. And Baba's like, nope, done with you. I don't need this. I love you, but you got to retire. And so Onita pretty much was made to retire and leave wrestling because Baba's like, your knee is not at the shape that I am expecting a top junior heavyweight to be at. And so Onita was forced to retire, and Baba paid him a pension, gave him some money for retiring. So it wasn't just get out, but it was definitely forced on Onita to leave because of his situation.
So after Onita leaves All Japan, there's this period of obscurity that Onita kind of slips into, where he gets into trouble with the law a little bit. He's working different types of jobs to kind of to try to make a buck, and he kind of is out of the wrestling world for a couple of years until he gets a job as a trainer for JWP. It's a women's wrestling promotion, a Joshi wrestling Joshi promotion, and Onita. Do you happen to know how much time Onita spent as a trainer for JWP? I'm kind of curious about that myself.
So he started up, like around early '88. So it was less than a year, because by the end of '88, he was already focusing on a full-time return into the ring. So yeah, he got a job as a trainer, and he ended up actually working a JWP match against Gran Hamada. And then kind of once that happened, once it was okay, my retirement's over, it's kind of okay, now I need to focus on how to get a career in pro wrestling, because at the time it's really only All Japan, New Japan. Well, New Japan's not going to take Onita. All Japan's already had him retire. So what do? You kind of got to go with these little small indies, which didn't really exist too much. I mean, like you said, JWP, he had to go to a women's promotion. Well, obviously he's not going to be like a full-time JWP wrestler, so he's now looking into, okay, I kind of got my feet back in the door of wrestling. How do I kind of open the door to be able to have a career here? And so that's what he's going to look for to do here going forward.
Right, and then he starts the instigation of basically this program that he would like to do with UWF. Right, he shows up at the show, and he gives a letter, and he wants to challenge. He wants to fight UWF, but they turn him away. And so he decides he's going to go and do it his own way, sort of a Frank Sinatra style, if you will. And he goes and he seeks out Masashi Aoyagi, and who is a top-ranked WKA fighter, I believe, at the time. And so they do a match within WKA, or is it two matches? They start their program off in WKA. I know that.
Yeah, so Onita actually had first started off in Pioneer Shinsei, which was Ryuma Go's promotion, and yes, that's where he had a match there. And then, like I said, yeah, then it's okay. Now, what am I going to do? How am I going to get my name out there? How am I going to be? Because he lost against Ryuma Go, which, if you know about Ryuma Go, he was an All Japan worker way back in the '70s as well, and who was really no name, and that was kind of the first independent promotion. Well, Onita decides, hey, how am I going to become big? Like I said, I can't do New Japan, can't do All Japan. Pioneer Shinsei is, the only independent. What am I going to do? So I need to reach out and challenge the UWF. So Onita ends up finding UWF, which is a shoot promotion, kind of the main rival of New Japan, All Japan. And Onita goes, you know what? I can fight you, a real, pro wrestler like me. I can beat you, shoot fighters, which, again, UWF was really popular at the time. So Onita goes to a UWF show and is refused entry. And they go, you need a ticket. And he goes, no, I'm challenging you. Sorry, we're not letting you in. You need a ticket to get in. So Onita's going, look, they're cowards. They won't challenge me. They won't fight me. They're scared of wrestlers. So Onita reaches out to Masashi Ayagi, who was WKA, which is a World Karate Association, and he ran a very, very big karate dojo at the time, very popular. And so he gets in contact with Ayagi and is like, hey, let's have this match, wrestler versus karate fighter. Let's see who is the winner, but it's Onita kind of going by the karate rules. Well, during this match at WKA, Onita ends up getting disqualified using like a wrestling stuff. He ends up using wrestling moves, and so he gets disqualified. And as a result, this leads to this grudge now between Onita and Ayagi, because, hey, you kind of, you got disqualified. You were going up against the rules. And that's what's going to lead to eventually FMW being created. Onita going, okay, you know what? I'm going to start my own promotion. It's going to be a mix of wrestling and martial arts. And I want Ayagi in a grudge match. And when FMW starts up in October.
That sounds a little bit like a parallel to something that Inoki would be doing at the time. You know what I'm saying? If he wasn't a part of New Japan, that's the kind of thing he would be doing, because that was his big shtick in the 70s, was he was challenging all of these martial artists to fights as a pro wrestler. And so, Onita is kind of like taking that and sort of, running with that, because it's still a popular idea at the time. The concept, the romanticizing of the pro wrestler as being as valid of a fighting art as judo, taekwondo, kenpo, that sort of thing. So it's Onita is really kind of going out there and going for broke. He's a revolutionary. There's no other way to say it. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, very much so. That's why he's as popular as he is today, 30 plus years later.
Yeah, no, I love. I think when people go to the GCW shows, and they know Onita is going to be at those shows. I mean, I'm pretty sure those are probably some of the highest drawing ones they have had, because I mean, who doesn't want to see Onita who hasn't watched his work? I mean, even people who have watched his work would probably be inclined to bring some friends and be like, you need to see this guy. Like, no, like you can watch the matches, but you got to see the guy just like come out and he's spitting water and he's wild thing. It's like the whole thing is just it's too much to take in. And so those GCW shows and anything.
GCW actually, yeah, CCW. He hadn't got the chance to work GCW yet.
Oh, he hasn't. I thought he had worked with He was is he trying to work with GCW?
Janela spring break, but he ended up getting surgery. Oh. So he's on 2 CCW shows.
Right. Okay, my apologies. I thought he had done.
You're right though about the CCW, because or at least when he went there the first time in 2017, that was a big draw. I flew up there to go see that show. There were a lot of people that flew up from across the country, California, Texas, to see Onita. It was a big thing at the time, the first time when he fought Tremont. So he was a big draw in 2017. People definitely wanted to see him at least one time, because he was going to retire later that year, although he ended up coming back and, working one more CCW show, which was not nearly as popular. But those are the only 2 that he's worked so far in America.
Right. I have fond memories of watching ECW and then him showing up to help fight the Dudleys, only to turn on Sandman and Dreamer. And I thought that was kind of a strange thing, but I totally marked out when I saw him, because I knew who he was by that point, but I was like, why aren't we seeing more Onita in ECW? I honestly would have lost my mind if we had gotten that. So I mean, anyways, but back to the formation of FMW, a couple of things I'd like to point out, and this is through the help of again your website, is that at the beginning of the promotion, we basically see that there's a couple of names that Onita he brings in to help him get FMW up and running behind the scenes. You have Mickey Ibaragi, right, who's a name, you're like, if you know FMW, this is a name that you keep hearing, again and again. Wally Yamaguchi, who would wind up, if I'm not mistaken, working as an agent for various promotions. I think he worked for the WWE for a good while too. And then Soichi Arai, who would wind up becoming the president of FMW, ultimately the last president, but he just started out as an announcer. But all of these guys are well-known figures in Japanese pro wrestling history. But also, All Japan was using, FMW have used a solid amount of former All Japan workers or All Japan wrestlers that have spent a good chunk of their careers in All Japan. Some of them were trainees like Onita and Tarzan Goto, who would be one of the, if I'm not mistaken, he's one of the first heels, Japanese heels for FMW. Is that correct?
He turned on, so he would have turned on Onita.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's see, in 1990, Goto turned on him in the summer of 1990.
Right.
Yeah, and then Mr. Pogo came in right around that time as well. So yeah, they pretty much are equal as far as heels go.
Right,
But
right.
they also had some heels prior to that, like Masakurusu and Kendo Nagasaki. They were heels prior to that, prior to Goto turning heel.
And those are both also former All Japan workers too, if I'm not mistaken. Little stints, maybe a couple of matches for Kurisu, but I'm pretty sure Dragon Master worked a little bit of All Japan too.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, anyways, yeah, we get over to we get more towards the mid '90s, and we start seeing a few more workers that wind up eventually working All Japan. One of them happens to be we talk about 1990, and let's talk about 1990 real quick. That is the debut year of the Gladiator Mike Awesome, is it not?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah, so we have the debut year of Mike Awesome, who would I'm sorry, the Gladiator, Mike Awesome, one and the same, who would ultimately, I would go as far as to say the most successful gaijin in FMW, not named, not named Terry Funk or the Headhunters.
I'd say no. I'd say he was the most successful because Terry was only there for short periods of time. Mike Awesome was there for 8 years straight.
True.
So
Yes.
and was their champion. And so obviously Terry Funk's the bigger name as far as career wise, and he got to main event Kawasaki Stadium. But Mike Awesome was there throughout. Like he was touring. He was a regular. He was FMW. Whereas, like I said, Terry Funk and the Headhunters, they were in IWA Japan as well during that time, in between. And the Headhunters actually started up in Wings. So Mike Awesome, I would consider, yeah, definitely the top foreigner from, in FMW overall.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I would probably I would agree with that. It's just I look at Funk in the fact that he was a huge draw. He really was for FMW. Really helped with those huge shows, and I always have that in the back of my mind that he was the driving force of arguably one of the best stables in FMW, right? And it's Terry Funk, and this is the resurgence. This is almost like the phoenix of Terry Funk because now he's starting to really embrace that hardcore style of wrestling. We saw a glimmer of it in his time in WCW right towards the end. If I'm not mistaken, he uses a plastic bag and he chokes out Ric Flair, right? And he uses the table and he pile drives Ric Flair on that table after Ric Flair is like, screw you, old man, you don't deserve to get a shot at my NWA title. But by this point, Funk is in a full resurgence, of his career. But also Sheik is somebody that spent some time in FMW getting sort of a revitalization of his a career as being a known name in wrestling because he's not so much working. He's not doing an intense amount of work. He's doing matches, but obviously he's no spring chicken. He's letting his nephew Sabu do a good chunk of the work, or the people that are a bit younger doing the work. But Sheik is getting this resurgence in his career, and you've got tons of workers. We mentioned the Headhunters, and they had spent some time in All Japan. I believe they also entered into a Real World Tag League. I would like to talk a little bit about the relationship that All Japan and FMW developed towards the late 90s, because we do see a little bit of a talent trade. And right before we got on this call, I was mentioning the fact that I was looking at your list, top 100 FMW matches, and saw that Mauna Kea Mossman and Kenta Kobashi going on a tag match up against Jinsei Shinzaki of Michinoku Pro and Hayabusa FMW, right? And this was was this on a Kawasaki Stadium show?
Yeah, it was Kawasaki Stadium. Pretty much I listed as number 5, and so pretty much the thing about this match was I've only seen a handheld of it. That's the only version that's ever been released. And when I first watched it, I was like, this is the greatest FMW match I've ever seen. So originally, the match was number one. Now, as the years went by, I saw it again. And again, I'm watching it as if I'm far back in the crowd because of it's only being recorded that way. And so watching it again, I was like, you know what? There's been other matches that I liked more based off passion, based off the emotion, based off just, no matter what, this was just a match. There wasn't stakes really to it. But it's going to air for the very first time on Samurai TV in about a week or so. So I'll be getting to watch the professional films version of it for the very first time, and and maybe I'll get to even really relive this match that I've only seen from afar on video camera, and actually get to see hey, how great really was this match. So yeah, but as far as this, it was a Kawasaki Stadium show. All Japan and FMW were working together, and FMW got this, even though it wasn't the last match. This was, in a lot of people's mind, this was the main event match of that show that drew over 30,000 people.
I mean, you have to wonder that you've got a match that is just top notch caliber. I mean, like you said, this could be this for a time, in your opinion, and you've watched quite a lot of FMW at that point. This is the best match that you've seen. So I mean, you've got this, and it's sitting in the vault for it's over 20 years. Okay, it's over 20 years. It's been sitting in their vault, and all of a sudden they're just like, oh, hey, that thing we've been, having, we're going to pull a Walt Disney move. Well, guess what? The Black Cauldron is back out in theaters. So how do you like them apples? It's like, wow, my mind was blown when I found out about that through Robert.
Yeah, there were legal issues why they couldn't show it, because pretty much all Japan wrestlers were signed through G Plus or NTV and VAP commercial videos. And so literally they could not show it. Now, they probably could have shown it the past decade or so, but the issue is Samurai TV never really goes that far back on shows. They kind of want to, oh, nobody cares about stuff from the or 10 years ago. They rarely go past 3 years in regards to showing footage. So when the pandemic happened, it's, oh, none of these live shows are taking place. We have to go into the vaults because we don't have enough shows to air. So let's show some of these more popular 90s, from the 90s War, FMW, Michinoku Pro shows. And they decided, hey, you know what? We don't have to legally not show this match anymore. And so that's why they're going to put this match on in a week.
So, if possible, I would like to kind of open it up topic wise on how that relationship with FMW and All Japan kind of came to be, because as we know, in this time period, it's been about 5, 6, 7, let's say maybe even 8 years removed since Bava decides that he no longer wants to dip into the pool of the NWA, and that All Japan will become an isolationist promotion that will essentially kind of just keep to itself. They had stopped using regular NWA WCW guys. They had stopped having NWA World Heavyweight title matches in the promotion at this point. If I'm not mistaken, Steamboat's the last guy, and that's by 88, 89. He's the last guy to defend the NWA World Heavyweight title. So All Japan is an isolationist promotion. So we're talking 96, 97, 98. Essentially, you have All Japan participation from FMW and FMW participation, so forth, such as seeing Hayabusa show up in All Japan with Jensei Shinzaki. That team just getting all sorts of bookings. They're over in ECW, they're over in FMW, they're over in Impro, they're over in All Japan. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they might have even done a few, like 1 or 2 tag matches in Battle Arts. And so, that time they're just kind of getting around.
Hayabusa worked Battle Arts, but Shinzaki didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, my memory of Battle Arts is a little hazy, but it's a great promotion. You know what? I'm gonna give them 10 seconds. Okay, I'm gonna give them 10 seconds just because they were a great promotion. It was a lot of fun to watch. A lot of smaller guys, right? But those guys had like a lot of fire. You had larger guys. You know, you had Ikeda, who's not. He's a heavyweight. I'd say he's a heavyweight. You had Yone. You know, you had Otsuka's kind of floating somewhere in there. But the thing is Ishikawa. I mean, you know, they had really good workers, and they were a lot of fun to watch. And they interacted with All Japan. They also interacted with FMW. Ikeda is a former. He's a former FMW Brass Knucks Tag Team Champion with Fujiwara, if I'm not mistaken, Yoshiaki Fujiwara, New Japan legend, right?
Yeah, and Hayabusa.
There you go. Right. So, you know, I just wanted to give Battle Arts a little love right there, real fast. But if you've never heard of Battle Arts, go and watch what you can of them. There was some fantastic workers that you know. Minoru Tanaka got his start there, and he was just wowing the hell out of people. When he was, you know, the thing, you know, he was such an indie darling that New Japan had to just, you know, swoop him up as quick as they could. But anyways, back to the relationship that All Japan had developed with FMW. As I mentioned, All Japan at this stage is an isolationist promotion. They're not working with WWF until I think 98, 97, 98. I forgot when they started doing a little bit of talent relations, but up until that point, they were isolationists. So
I guess 97, yeah, because 97 because the Blackjacks did the Real World Tag Tournament in 97 with them.
Right. So how did that relationship with All Japan, the relationship between All Japan and FMW kind of grow? How did that thing get started? Do you have any details on that for?
Yeah. So pretty much what happened was Onita retired in 95. Had a big retirement match against Hayabusa, and he was going to leave. And, you know, he built up all this money and got all this money off of a 1-year retirement tour. And I'm going to, you know, retire. I'm going to go into the become a movie star. And about less than a year later, really, technically, Hayabusa knew. And in return, Hayabusa became the focal point of the promotion. He had the match against Onita. He became the ace, and FMW changed. FMW went from Onita brawls and death matches to pretty much main event strong style matches where, you know, Hayabusa is having a straight match and having really excellent matches. And about a year into it, like I said, you kind of could already tell Onita's already kind of itching to come back. Hayabusa knew less than a year into it, Onita's going to come back. And after about 6 months of I think Onita's going to come back, it's official. Onita's going to come out of his retirement. And what's that going to do? Onita is FMW. What does that mean to Hayabusa? So Hayabusa decides, you know what? I can't compete with Onita. Onita is FMW. He has more seniority than me. He is going to take my spot. And, you know, and he's thinking that it's just going to become FMW of the early 90s again. And where am I going to? Because Hayabusa wants to be the ace. He wants to be the top guy of FMW. He doesn't want to be shoved back down to the mid card and this just be Onita's FMW. So Hayabusa decides, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to have I'm going to go to All Japan. I want to go to All Japan and have awesome matches against Kobashi and Misawa and Kawada. And so Hayabusa pretty much decides, I'm going to get in touch with All Japan, and I want to have these awesome matches against Misawa. I want to have these awesome matches against Kobashi, Kawada. And side note, Hayabusa was actually pretty much best friends with Misawa at this point. He was drinking buddies with him. Even Misawa had reached out to him and goes, hey, let's, you know, I want to hang out with you. And so Hayabusa and Misawa, they would go to bars together. So they had a secret friendship that nobody knew about. So Hayabusa already kind of knew, you know, hey, I think I can get into All Japan. I just need the proper, you know, I think I'll be accepted if I get into All Japan. And so what happened was Hayabusa actually reached out to Shoshi Arai, the FMW president, like he said, and Arai reached out to Onita and was like, hey, Onita, you have the relationship with Giant Baba. Can you see about getting Hayabusa in All Japan for a little while, you know, so he could work All Japan as well? And Onita agrees. Okay, you know what? I'll reach out to Baba. Hey, okay, Baba, he's willing to meet with you, Hayabusa, so go meet up with him. So Hayabusa and Baba meet up, and they talk, and Hayabusa goes, you know, I want to work for you. I want to work when I can in All Japan as well as FMW. And Baba, like you said, he had isolated All Japan for all these years. He never, really had like other promotion guys that are contracted with another promotion work for his company. Hayabusa, I will let you in All Japan. I will let you work. And so that pretty much, got Hayabusa in the door, and he worked. Started in April '97, and then pretty much every 2 months or so, maybe pretty big show. He come in, he worked Budokan Hall in June '97, and then he started this little tiff with Akiyama in October, and then September. He actually worked Budokan Hall against Kobashi in a tag match. That match has aired before. It was Hayabusa and Shinzaki versus Kobashi and Kentaro Shiga, which is a good match. I mean, nothing great, but it's good. And then Hayabusa worked a tag match with Masawa on September 28th, 1997 at Corrigan Hall. And then later that night ended up having that Kobashi tag match, like you said, a Kobashi Mossman, Hayabusa Shinzaki at Kawasaki Stadium. And then he ended up working the Real World Tag Tournament in November '97, where he had a bunch of really good matches. Especially the match that always stood out to me was the Kawada Taue match, where Hayabusa just looks like a star in that match. And then worked the Tokyo Dome in '98, and then had a run with the All Japan All Asian Tag Titles in '99, pretty much. And so he had a good 2+ year run with All Japan here, off and on, essentially.
Let's talk about, just for a split second, just because it does become kind of big to the story. They lost the tag titles, the All Asian Tag belts. Did they not lose them to Takayama and Omori?
Yeah, they lost them. So essentially, what happened was FMW decided they wanted to isolate, and they didn't want anything to do with any companies because they had issues with, like you were talking about, Battle Arts. Hey, a really good promotion, but they weren't FMW. FMW was a bigger company, had more established wrestlers, and at the end, this relationship with Battle Arts is going, no, we have to win. We have to beat your guys every single time. And FMW is like, oh, fine, here, okay, well, job, as long as it's not Hayabusa, but we'll lose. And so they had an FMW versus Battle Art match in May '99 at the big FMW show, and like I said, Battle Arts was like, no, we got to win. So then they win, and then in return, FMW works a Battle Arts show, and Battle Arts again is like, nope, we got to win. So Battle Arts beats FMW. So at the same time, like you're saying, All Japan in '99, All Japan, they bring in Takeshi Morishima for the FMW show. They have him beat Mama Sasaki, but that was a young boy match, didn't matter. But then they had Tsuyoshi Kikuchi, who at this time is kind of washed. He's not anywhere near what he was back in like '92 or anything. And he has a match with Koji Nakagawa, and All Japan's like, no, All Japan will always beat FMW. We are never going to have any FMW guy actually like beat us, especially at an FMW show. Like the most we'll go is a Hayabusa beating a young boy like Kentaro Shiga. He's never going to beat a big star or beat even like a mid guy. And FMW's like, you know what? Screw this. We're done working with other companies. We're gonna isolate, because these are the companies that are making us look bad by refusing to ever lose to our guys. And so they isolate, and as a result, All Japan's like, all right, well, you're dropping the All Asian Tag Titles, and they dropped them to Takayama and Omori as a result.
And it's funny because if I'm not mistaken, to the folks that are not familiar with late '99, early 2000s All Japan tag team scene, Takayama, who came into All Japan, was initially looking like he was going to be a face, and then all of a sudden pulled a 180 and became a heel, and he dyed his hair blonde, and he started, he found Takao Omori, who had kind of been floating in mediocrity since his team with Jun Akiyama, who had held the All Asian Tag Belts for nearly 3 years. I think it's actually over 3 years, and that they have the record. But after that, Omori kind of floating around in obscurity for a while until he gets paired up with Takayama, and they form Team No Fear, which becomes wildly popular. It's hugely successful, and No Fear uses the All Asian Tag Title win to propel themselves to I think if I'm not mistaken, they win the World Tag Team belts, and then Masawa and Yoshinari Ogawa go and win the tag belts, both sets of tag belts off of them, because then they split up the belts. Then they say, okay, well, one pair of wrestlers can't have both sets of belts, and so Masawa and Ogawa, they vacate the All Asian tag belts. They're going to keep the World Tag Team belts, but that winds up being a huge thing. But they take the belts away from Hayabusa and Shinzaki, and the whole Team No Fear thing just kind of sets off like a bomb. Brett, thank you so much, because that is a lot of stuff that I, as a huge FMW fan, go into a huge All Japan fan, had been wondering about, because you see Hayabusa working All Japan shows, but you don't see Masato Tanaka, you don't see Koji Nakagawa, you don't see Riki Fuji, you don't see any of these guys really work All Japan. A match in the 6-man match, the 25th anniversary of All Japan, but I was always puzzled.
The Tokyo Dome in '98 with the Gladiator, Kuroda, and Hosaka, and they ended up losing to an All Japan team at the Tokyo Dome. And then '99, the Tokyo Dome, they had Kanemaru, Nakagawa, and Geto lose to an All Japan team. I think the only time that it wasn't Hayabusa was working All Japan was just those Tokyo Dome shows, other than Jado and Geto, but those were separate deals.
Oh yeah, no. For those at home that are not super familiar, Jado and Geto kind of collectively were working with Hiromichi Fuyuki, aka Samson Fuyuki, aka Kodo Fuyuki. They kind of get together as they're leaving war, and they actually wind up heading over to FMW right afterwards, and that's a whole saga we can get into for another day. But Kodo Fuyuki, who was an IWE guy who made his way over to All Japan and looked like he had a somewhat promising career as a slightly higher mid-card guy. That's probably where he would have got up to, but he wound up jumping to SWS with Tenryu and a couple of the All Japan workers, a few New Japan workers, and so forth. But again, that's a whole different chapter for another day. But also, Tenryu winds up working a couple of matches in FMW. He winds up doing the huge cage match with Onita, right? And that's in '94, right? That's a fantastic match. I think if you're really big into either Onita or Tenryu, or if you like both, that's a must watch. It's a must watch. I tell you right now.
Yeah, he worked '94. That was when he was working for War. Well, obviously, running War, and they did a talent exchange where Onita and Goto took on Tenryu and Hara at a Sumo Hall War show where Onita pinned Tenryu in a tag match, and then that led to the singles match between Onita and Tenryu, where Tenryu won, and as a result, due to winning, Onita had to retire. It was originally announced that Onita would be retiring. It made it seem like it would be right away, but then after the loss, it was like, I'm going to retire next year. So that's why Onita did the 1-year retirement tour where he made all that money going, oh, this is my last year, because he lost to Tenryu. And then, Tenryu actually ended up coming back at the very end of FMW in 2000, 2001-ish or so. He worked as the face on the face side. He actually debuted as Big Hayabusa, where he teamed up with the time H, which was Hayabusa's alternative gimmick where he didn't have the mask. And Tenryu was the Hayabusa guy dressed up in the Hayabusa outfit. And then after that, then he ended up he worked a match against Fuyuki at Kawasaki Stadium and beat Fuyuki. And then after that, he goes, I respect you, Fuyuki. And they became a tag team because Fuyuki, after he left All Japan, joined SWS, and then SWS was a complete disaster and joined up with Fuyuki's War. And Fuyuki was always kind of the number 2 guy in War. And so then Fuyuki and Tenryu kind of realigned and become a tag team. and that leads later down the road to the very end of FMW, where FMW is taking on a war team essentially. And while even though the war promotion was closed at this point in late 2001, and as a result, Fuyuki began working with Tenryu in the All Japan Real World Tag Tournament in 2001. And side note, not many people really remember this, but Hayabusa was actually going to return to All Japan and wrestle at Budokan Hall in October 2001. He was going to take on Tenryu, but he ended up getting paralyzed. His career-ending injury ended up taking place about 6 days or 5 or 6 days before that match were to have happened.
I absolutely remember that because I was really looking forward to it. For those who are not super acquainted with 2000s All Japan, and I don't blame you because it's kind of a strange time, to condense it to a point, you had somebody who Baba swore basically on his life that he would never let Tenryu come back. And so Tenryu had left, and we keep talking about SWS. Tenryu left to go form SWS, and as Brett mentioned, it was a disaster. War was a bit more successful, definitely more memorable than SWS. I think we can both agree on that. Wouldn't you say, Brett?
Oh yeah, SWS was a complete failure, and War had its moments. War was not a failure. I wouldn't. It was kind of in that line of success, success-ish. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a disaster like SWS.
Right. So you have Tenryu, and he goes and he forms SWS, but by doing so, he has completely burned his bridge with Baba. We were talking about how Onita, right? He felt it was okay to reach out to Baba to ask this thing about Hayabusa, whereas somebody like Tenryu would go and think he could do that to Baba. Baba would not even pick up his phone call, would not even give him the time of day because Tenryu felt so betrayed at Tenryu taking a couple of workers. I think it's about 8 or 9. Nobody besides maybe Great Kabuki and maybe Yatsu, who are of substantial value to All Japan, but it's the fact that Tenryu would go and do this, feeling as he was not in the spotlight where he belonged, always going to have to play second fiddle to Jumbo. But you have Tenryu going and showing up in All Japan in 2000s after the split, the Noah All Japan split, and I did not know this, but Tiger Kihara supposedly is somebody who negotiated with Tenryu, who always liked Kihara. Kihara liked Tenryu, and Mrs. Baba, my Motoko, after Mr. Baba passed away, and he basically played a negotiator to get Tenryu to come back to All Japan. And at this time, which is about 2000, we said 2001, we have a resurgence of War, but through All Japan, because you have guys like Koki Hidehara, right, Nobutaka Araya, who were War regulars. They were staples, and they're showing up in All Japan, and all of a sudden they're kind of getting some traction in their careers. And there's a 5-on-5 single series match, the singles series of matches that we're going to have, and it's going to be All Japan versus War for control of All Japan. And I saw Hayabusa was going to step up and wrestle for All Japan, and I was like, oh, but then the unfortunate accident happened with Hayabusa and his paralyzing, and that's such a heartbreaker, it really is. But in another dimension, Hayabusa came back and wound up becoming a Triple Crown champion. We kind of come to 2001. Onita, right? Onita is going to work this the Tokyo Dome show at the beginning of 2001 because he respects Baba. And he shows up and he does a tag match with I think Terry Funk is his tag partner, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, and so it's a big deal for Onita because he's coming back to his old haunt. He hasn't been there in a while, but I mean it's a big deal. And Onita doesn't show up after 2001 for quite some time, and so FMW, is closed by the is it 2002 or is it 2001 by the end of 2001 or into 2002 that FMW has
February
closed
2002, FMW closed down.
Right. So by 2002, FMW is dead and buried. A lot of its workers have dispersed. Some of them are striking them out in the indies. Some of them are gone to work in this collective of Fuyuki guys, Fuyuki Kanemura guys, former, team No Respect guys. That eventually wind up forming the Apache Army. The Apache Army, the Apache Pro wrestler, the promotion, and I like to call them the WEW group because essentially it's Fuyuki Kanemura that are essentially keeping the WEW name alive, right? Which started out in FMW as a indicator. It was a marker that said, this is the new FMW. This is the way we say, this is how, we've changed because all the titles, the brass knucks and the independent world heavyweight title and, all that jazz, that gets tossed out the window. We get new titles. We get the WEW branding, and that goes on after FMW. And so we do see some of those wrestlers will actually wind up showing up in All Japan. You've got Mr. Ganasuke. You've got Kanemura. They win the All Asian Tag Belts. Now, granted, that's outside of All Japan, but the All Asian Tag Belts, the lineage is still attached to All Japan. For the most part, it has spent a decent amount of time in 01 in different indie promotions, and definitely, of course, in JWP, if I'm not mistaken, the original the Japanese wrestling promotion, the one that birthed Nikita-san, Inoki, so forth. But we get to as I mentioned earlier, a lot of all Asian tag team title holders. There's tons of them that have worked FMW, and we get to Onita in 2016, and he resurfaces to All Japan in a tag match, and this starts leading into Fuchi and Onita reuniting as a tag team, and they manage to win the All Asian Tag Belts in 2017. They don't get to hold on to them very long, but do you have any insight as to the trigger to why Onita showed back up in 2016, like at that particular time?
Onita always wanted to work All Japan. The issue back in 2000 was that Kawada didn't want him. So it was a big thing to get him involved because Kawada was a big, no, I do not want Onita back. And so that was the only reason that Onita was allowed to work the Tokyo Dome, was because, well, we need draws, okay? Because that show was not going to be a financial success. It wasn't. But, hey, we needed as many draws as possible. So that was the only reason they brought in Onita. And then Onita was always willing to work All Japan. And then, you go, fast forward to 2017 or so, it's, hey, it'd be a really nice story. The 100th All Japan, All Asian tag titles are the very first two All Japan dojo students. And, Fuji's still working there. And so Onita at this time is working all over the place. And yeah, I mean, Onita's willing to work anywhere for money. And he always has a love for All Japan, even though it's not the same All Japan as it was even, as of 2000 or so. But I mean, it's a payday, and I think it meant a lot. He bragged about it for, after the title reign was, me and Fuji, we were the 100th All Japan, All Asian tag titles. He brought it up. That's something that he remembers. And I know when they changed the All Asian tag belts not too long ago, it was, those aren't the belts that we, me and Fuji had. We were the 100 tag team champions. So it's a big deal. Was a big deal for him to do that and do it with someone he's known for as long as Masafuchi.
Yeah, I think it was a very special moment, which is why I didn't complain. I think they lost the belt. I can't remember who they beat for the belts. I want to say Evolution? Was it Sato and Aoki?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on when they lost it. I think I know they worked January 2017. I think I'm trying to remember when they actually had the belts and when they lost it.
Well, the important thing is I didn't mind the timing because All Japan has always been very good about kind of
Yeah. So
getting.
they actually were champions for a little while. So they won it in November 2016, and then they lost it in June 2017. So they had it for a good 7 months or so, and they lost it to Aoki and Sato.
I think it's awesome that they got a pretty good lengthy reign just to kind of show the respect to Fuji and Onita because they like you said they're the first two dojo graduates, and I think it's important that All Japan kind of keeps the level of relevancy for the past. We have these indicators of the past. You've got Akiyama, you got Omori, you got Fuji, you've got guys from the old ways of All Japan to kind of be able to sort of to pass that along. And so when that happened, I thought it was really cool. It was a nice send back to the ways of the past. So 2007, I think it's 2017. We do see a little bit of back and forth between Onita and his FMW forces going up against Evolution in a couple of matches that are in All Japan and in FMW too. There's a 6-man with Super Tiger. I want to say Sato and Suwama going up against I think it's an Onita-led team, and that was a pretty good match too. I don't think I got to catch anything other than that, but do you have any background as to what was going on or what led to that? What led to the development of that angle?
So it was pretty much just Onita is feuding with everybody at this point, and he had his retire. He was, leading to his retirement. And Onita is just, I want to have as many feuds as possible. I want to have as many programs as I can, and get people talking. And I want to have a match with Suwama. That was the big thing. I want to have a fight with Suwama, and like I said, going back, Onita wanted a feud with Akibono. He wanted a feud with Satoru Sayama, Tiger Mask. This is, 2013, 2014. He's having multi-feuds. So at this point, he's moved on. He wants this feud with Suwama, which it just leads to politic issues of, okay, well, Onita's not going to lose to Suwama in a tag match. Suwama's not going to lose to him. In a singles match. So let's have tag matches. And so Onita ended up having his own promoted show in Yokohama. It was in July 2017. Here we go. Yeah, so July 16th, 2017 in the Yokohama, and it was at a yacht society, which means this is like a really rich area, and we're a yacht club essentially near the river, and it was Suwama, Atsushi Ayaki, and Kiyoshi taking on Atsushi Onita, Raijin Yaguchi, and Ricky Fuji, and this was an exploding barbed wire bat death match, which Onita was doing a bunch back then, and so it was All Japan versus the Onita team, even though this with the All Japan team getting the win, because All Japan's going to get the win, but Onita's not going to do the job or anything like that.
Brett, hey, thank you so much for providing a lot of just filling in a lot of gaps for a lot of folks like myself who are savvy to the like I said, the roads that All Japan and FMW share. And I think for a lot of folks who are going to listen to this and have their mind blown at the fact that FMW and All Japan kind of they share they share roads, I think is going to blow a lot of people's minds. But hopefully, in the very least, it's going to get people watching the matches. They're going to get them watching All Japan. They're going to watch the Hayabusa matches and the Jensei Shinzaki matches, the tag matches. They're going to watch the FMW matches that we've been talking about, in the sense that you can watch the transformation of Onita's FMW to Hayabusa's FMW, where you just see these just outstanding main events. Just the wrestling on there is just it's so good that you think this is on par with the big leagues in terms of the talent, not so much the match that's happening, because all three of them are having fantastic matches, but you would think Hayabusa should be in New Japan. Hell, he was recruited to New Japan, but he said no. He wanted to go and be FMW, which I always respected the hell out of. And when I heard that, I was like, hell yeah, that's fucking Hayabusa for you, because he's so proud to be, the FMW, he's the flag bearer, and I always loved that guy. He wore his heart on his sleeves, and even though you don't understand what he's saying in his promos, especially when he first wins the double titles, it's like you can just see the passion in his eyes, and you can just feel the passion in his voice, and he's just somebody that deserved to be, at the top of the top of the line for a huge promotion like All Japan or New Japan. He belonged as a contemporary, not underneath, not an indie guy that was underneath these guys. He was as good as your Misawas, your Kawadas, your Kensuke Sasaki, your Keiji Moto. He's as good as they are. And in the main events that they had at those times, the classics with Masato Tanaka, the classics with Koji Nakagawa, Tetsuhira Kuroda, with Mike Awesome that we were just talking about, with Ganosuke. I'm a huge Ganosuke fan. If you love a guy who is not just sleazy, but he's a really good wrestler, Ganosuke is your guy, because he is just such a sleazy heel. I love him to death because you want to hate him, but he's so good as a wrestler. He is another guy that you would think, oh shit, how did All Japan let this guy slip away, or how did New Japan say no to this guy? If he ever applied, I'm just saying.
He wanted. He grew up as a New Japan and All Japan fan. Just there was a height limit to the dojo, and he was 5'9", and they didn't want him. No one was allowed 5'9" or under.
That makes total sense, because he got it. You know what I'm saying? He is the perfect foil for Hayabusa. In fact, I will go on for 30 seconds, Brett, and you can, definitely you can stop me if you feel like I'm out of line, or, but afterwards I'd love you to come and chime in. But I think the defining relationship that you want to watch if you're trying to get into FMW, at least in my view, this is 16-year-old Dave talking to you, okay, right now. 16-year-old Dave is talking to you. If you want to see the relationship that defines what makes FMW special, you come to me now. I'm 36, and I started watching when I was 16. And you come to me and you ask me, what is the feud? What is the series of matches I need to watch? I will tell you right now, without any hesitation, it is Mr. Ganosuke versus Hayabusa, because that series of matches, you don't get bad matches. You get matches that might have a few slips here and there. You might get a few botches. That's just the name of the game. Anybody can have a bad night, but their matches, their tag matches, 6-mans, regular, just two 2-on-2 tag matches, their singles matches, all of their matches are fantastic. They are academic. If you want to know how to wrestle and really wrestle and sort of walk the balance between using a bit of hardcore in your matches, but having just a technical, just really psychologically driven, really well, just flat out outstanding matches, you watch Mr. Ganosuke versus Hayabusa's series of matches from the start, from their very beginnings to the last couple of matches they had. I mean, my God, you don't get better than that. I honestly, you could go and sit there and tell me that there are certain matches that are of higher, they're of higher importance. The Onita Hayabusa match might be, but in terms of just the series of matches, just them interacting, the relationship, the chemistry between those two, unmatched.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Hayabusa stated that Ganosuke was his favorite opponent. They went back to college. Like, that's how they met. They knew each other going back 1987. They didn't start their pro wrestling career until 1991. So they had known each other for 4 years before even getting into the business. And then you add the whole dynamic that Mr. Ganosuke, he left FMW right at the end, right when Mr. Hayabusa was about to be the star and Onita was retiring. Mr. Ganosuke and Tarzan Goto left, and Ganosuke was gone for 2 years, and then to come back and be a heel, and then there was just this natural feud between the two, and they had this great chemistry with Hayabusa being the high flyer, with being the guy to have all these innovative moves, and then Ganosuke with the ground game, having this awesome ground attack, and him creating moves as well that no one's seen as well. And you add that, and you end up having a series of really awesome matches from 1998, 1997, 1998 to about the end of FMW in 2001.
Absolutely. Just, I mean, I think Ganosuke is one of those guys in the last 20 years of pro wrestling, and it's just well, I mean, I honestly think you'd have to dial back just a bit further, say in like 25 years. That just, you want to talk about like top level heels in a promotion. He just, I hear nobody ever give that man his due. I mean, I honestly feel like he was a top level heel. I mean, he's competing with Kanemura and Fuyuki, right? The three of them kind of have an equal size ego, right? I mean, they're both heels and they're assholes, and it's like, well, I'm a bigger asshole than he is, and it's like, oh no, wait a minute, we're all assholes here, and they do a good job by showing that by pissing on the fucking owner of the promotion and doing it in their tidy whities, but I always thought that Ganosuke is somebody that never got the appreciation that he deserved, because Fuyuki had been lighting it up as a really, really good heel in War, and then he gets over to FMW and he does an even further extension of that, just really just like to me it's like he's really hamming it up as a heel, but he knew what he was doing, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's really good at just making you hate him, right? He does those little shrieks when he was like charging up for a lariat, like, oh my god, I'd rather go and like listen to like nails being grinded up against a chalkboard than listen to that son of a bitch. But that was the point, he's really good at working. He's a good worker. He's a great worker. He's very unappreciated, but I would not call him underrated, because a lot of folks look back very fondly on him now. People look back at Ganosuke fondly now, but a lot of folks don't know about Ganosuke. They're not exposed to him. They haven't seen his work. And, for the folks that are listening to this, I hope you will go and check out some Mr. Ganosuke action, because he's top-notch. He has done a match in All Japan, believe it or not. He did lose the All Asian Tag Belts to, if I'm not mistaken, it was the Great Kojizuki, or whatever, the Great Sasuke variant of Kojima, and it was... oh my god! It was Kaz under his mask is Shiryu. Yeah, at least I think that's who they lost the All Asian Tag Belts to.
Yeah, January 2004, January 2nd, 2004.
There you go. See, so I'm still pretty razor sharp on a good amount of things, or sharp enough. But so we get over to 2017, and we've kind of gotten to Onita as he's lost the All Asian Tag Belts, and that's pretty much been the extent of FMW intersecting with All Japan. But I mean, it's very hard to say, and in this climate, when we will see more interacting between Onita forces, FMW guys working in All Japan for some time, or just it's a really tough situation because of the virus, and a lot of promotions are kind of just they're working with the skeleton crew, and it's very tough, and my heart goes out to them, and my heart goes out to the wrestling industry, because we love it, we take a lot out of it, we get a lot out of it, and a lot of them are hurting because they're not making any money in any kind of form, but we try our best to support where we can. Brett, do you have any feelings about the virus and how it's affecting the different indie promotions, or just affecting wrestling in general. I mean, I'd like to hear your thoughts. If you've posted up something on social media that was like kind of cover this, I apologize, but I would like to hear kind of your thoughts on what's going on.
No, yeah, Big Japan's in big trouble. Um, they were already losing money. They were already having financial issues, and now you add in the fact that they're not able to make any money and any profit, and they're having to run stuff like a dojo, and they're having to have a bus and stuff like that, and an office and just everything, and they're in real danger, and they're sourcing to. Fans are pretty much paying for this month, and okay, maybe they'll survive this month, but what happens if the Japan national state of emergency continues? Because it's as of right now it's going to May 31st, but there's a bunch of promotions that are still closing down shows, knowing okay, even if we can run, that doesn't mean that hey, we're going to put our workers in harm's way, and also it's going to draw well enough to even put on a show. And so I talked to Takashi Sasaki from Freedoms about a week ago or so, and I asked him about Freedoms because I know Big Japan's in big trouble. I asked him about Freedoms, and he just said, hey, it's not good, but it's manageable. It's going to be hard, but I think Freedoms is going to survive. And they don't have as many issues because they're not as big as Big Japan, so they can survive. Hey, just the wrestlers are not getting paid, and they're not having to pay for a dojo or anything like that. And so I think they're going to be okay. It just really kind of depends on the promotion and their situation. And hey, can you afford to not have to be losing money or to just not be getting any money for their shows? So like I said, it just depends on the promotion. But yeah, this is a dire situation, and I think a lot of promotions are very much hoping that this gets solved as soon as possible. But I mean, I think it's gonna keep going into the fall at least. People have talked about it just wiping out the whole year even. And Great Kajika from Big Japan, I don't know how accurate he is, but this is how he feels. He feels it's going to kill every promotion if this goes for the rest of the year, other than New Japan. So that's what he thinks. I don't necessarily agree, but I definitely think that it does. If it continues to go for the next 6, 7, 8 months, then yeah, every promotion besides New Japan is in trouble. Although I do think that they'll be able to survive.
Yeah, I think that the situation is grim. I don't know if it's as dire as Kojika has kind of went to in terms of extreme, because I'm not sure if Japan wants to lock down for that long, especially if numbers are continuing to decrease. Now, I will not try to predict or try to say that I am in any way, shape, or form educated on policy of that nature, especially in Japan. But I would think that if their numbers are going down and they do want to get back to things, China has slowly started to kind of get back there, even though I have heard some rumblings of them beginning to have smaller pockets of second wave outbreaks. But I would imagine Japan would like to get this thing dealt with as quick as they can, as safely as they can. But 6-7 months, that's a good amount of time. And I honestly couldn't put my finger on when Japan enacted, or supposedly I'm sorry, when the country decided to enact lockdown procedures for the different prefectures, because I know Tokyo is a bit more astringent. Big Japan tried to run a tour. They tried to run a couple of dates. Was it?
Yeah, it started April 7th.
Was that in Yokohama? Where was that at?
They were, I think, running North Japan at the very end, like in April 5th, April 6th, right before the state of emergency that shut everything down. and then they've worked one show in Chiba, which that's at the 2AW arena, which that's owned by the promotion. So, and that obviously was a no fan show, but they put on a show for Samurai TV, so they were making a little bit of money off of Samurai TV airing it on their television station. So that's the only income they've made since April 7th. But I'm looking up right now. Yeah, they worked Hokkaido. Let's see, they worked Hokkaido, which is north. Yeah. And then Shizuoka, which is about an hour and a half or so away from Tokyo, north of it. So yeah, they were a little bit more north of Tokyo there at the end.
It's a long time to predict things right now. I mean, in all fairness, I think with the year and how it's been going, I don't think anybody should predict anything at all whatsoever, because trajectory is probably going to be off. You can be reasonable with your shot, or you can be unreasonable, right? A Kojika is, I think, a little more towards unreasonable than reasonable, with him saying that if this goes 6-7 months, it's going to kill everybody besides New Japan. But at the same time, I guess I'm just a bit more of an optimist, where I'm just like, hey, maybe they get things up and running inside of 3 months, and some promotions are going to die. Wrestle One, obviously, the first name that I think of in terms of casualties, but hopefully they can they can save what they can in a time frame. But again, I'm much more of an optimist, and so I just hope for the best. But Kojika's been around for quite some time. I mean, the man has been in wrestling for what, like 6 decades. So I mean, yeah, that's well, maybe closer to 5, but it's still a lot to think about in terms of him being somebody who's seen it all, in the wrestling game, as far back as he's been. But that was then and this is now. So I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed and hope for the best. And that's good to hear Shinzaki talk about Freedoms being able to pretty much hold up more or less, because their expenses are not they're not super present. And so that's awesome, because I love Freedoms. Freedoms is a fantastic promotion. They give you what you're looking for. If you know what you're looking for, if you're like, I dig this stuff, then awesome. They're a great promotion. I wish them the best and hope that they can kind of keep things going. But yeah, my overall hope is that the economy will recover. The wrestling landscape is definitely going to change when public shows are going to be okay. But I think the damage has been done in terms of when we do see public shows coming back, attendances are going to probably be low. I think the promotions are going to need to be prepared for that. But, some attendance is better than none. So I think it's just taking it one step at a time. I think the day that promotions are going to be able to, refill Korakuen Hall is going to be a good day. I look forward to that day as a wrestling fan, as a fan of Japanese pro wrestling. I hope that one day soon we're going to see Korakuen Hall fill up with crowds. And, of course, it's going to be safe. We want to be obviously conscious of the fact that, we don't want to be lulled into a false sense of hope with the virus, because this thing is very real. It's killed a lot of people. It's definitely a threat to our way of life. There's no other way of putting that. But I'm gonna stay optimistic, and it sounds like you are too. So we just got to keep telling the folks that are not familiar with FMW, with All Japan, with just Japanese pro wrestling in general, and just spread the gospel, because there's so much out there to go and watch of both promotions. Both promotions have a rich history, and then they go on to different stories, side stories. All Japan has Noah. Again, as I mentioned, FMW had Apache Pro, which became Freedoms, right? And you've got a lot of these guys that are working different promotions now. Ricky Fuji's been working in K Dojo or 2AW for the longest time, and it still strikes me as funny. But he was a long mainstay of FMW. He's one of my favorites. I love watching that guy. He was the guy that you wanted to root for. Brett, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and I really want to say thanks again for giving us the time and talking with us about the relationship between All Japan and FMW and the different workers and different wrestlers that have kind of gone back and forth and are still relevant to this day. I mean, Tenryu might be retired, but he's definitely still a name that people still remember very fondly. Onita, definitely a name that people still remember to this day. Hayabusa is definitely a name that people still remember to this day. But Brett, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll definitely have to do this again sometime, man.
Yeah, you can find my website at BAHUFMW.com. I have news, results, everything that you can think of is on the website, biographies. I also have DVDs/MP4s for sale. I also have an Instagram, BAHUFMW World, where I go through all these different Japanese wrestling magazines of mine and go through all the FMW pictures or anything related to it. I have Twitter, BAHUFMW, where anything FMW related that's happening, I'll post about it, as well as I'll go through 1 year or anniversary video clips of famous FMW matches. And then also on YouTube at Brett FMW, where I do the History of FMW series, where I am going through every year of FMW, breaking it down, talking about the matches, talking about the details, and we are now at 2015, and that episode's going to be out soon, and I have highlights to go along with everything that I'm talking about, and like I said, you can find that at Brett FMW, or if you just search History of FMW, and that's pretty much it.
Finally, I want to say thank you to all of the listeners that are checking us out and enjoying the English commentary for All Japan Worldwide Fan Group. They're enjoying the Trivia League. They're enjoying the watch parties. Our official podcast. Make sure that you're checking out all the exclusives and make sure that you are also being really groovy and cool and civil with other folks when you're sharing your opinions, because it's totally okay to like what you like and other folks like what they like. But the minute we kind of get a bit more pushy than we need to be is where we kind of, start being a little more than, unreasonable, I would say. So just help making All Japan Worldwide a really awesome environment. And I will help do the same by, helping with the Trivia League and the English commentary and the podcast. And we just want to say thank you for listening.